Hey guys, it's Trey here and welcome to this video. In this video today, we're going to be doing something a little bit different than we normally do. Today I will be creating a React component. This React component is just going to be a basic carousel. So if you've ever seen a carousel, it's similar to what is on the screen now, where you have an image and you can scroll either left or right and, check out the different images. So we're going to create this, a very simple version of this. And this is just to show you guys how you can come up with this type of stuff from scratch. And hopefully it inspires you guys to come up with some really creative things. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so I have created a new React project by using Create React app. If you do not know how to create a React project, using Create React app, I will have a link in the description that will get you up to this point. Also, you will need to install React icons. You can do that by using npm install react icons, and then you can do -- save, and this will install React icons. All right, so once you get that done, we can go ahead and get started. I want to show you guys my setup. So basically, I have the basic Create React app here, and then in the source folder, I created a components folder, and inside of that components folder, I created a carousel folder. Inside of that carousel folder, I want to create two files. We're going to have carousel.js and carousel.css. So now I've created those two folders. I can see them in here inside of my carousel folder. And I also have this assets folder here. And this asset folder just has some images that I will use for the project pretty much. And now if I go into the carousel.js, it should be completely empty. And in VS Code, there is a plugin for React. So I can type in RFCE and hit enter, and it will create a React functional component for me. And inside of here, I need to import a couple of things. So the first thing we're going to import is our CSS file. So we're going to say import.carousel.css. So that will get us our CSS file. Also, I need to import these three images that we have here. So I'm going to do import. I'm just going to call it pick1, and then we're going to say from, and then you pass in the path. So it'll be ./assets/pick1.gif, and then you just do the same thing for the other two. All right, so once you get those imported, the last thing we need to import is some icons. So let's go to import, and then we're going to have capital F, a angle left, and FA angle right. And then we're importing this from React-icons. So now we have everything that we need imported. So let's go ahead and create our markup here. So before we start writing in the, our actual markup, the divs and everything, we're going to need to add in some props here. So the props are basically just going to be the source of the images. So we're going to do a carousel with 3 images. So we're going to need to pass in those images. So what we're going to do is we're going to have source 1, source 2, and source 3. And one other thing we were going to want to add into these props is the callback. So when we change images, we want to be able to basically tell the parent component that, hey, we just changed the image to whatever image we just changed to. So basically we're just going to be passing back the whatever image is in the middle, pretty much. So let's go ahead and add a callback method. So this is all we need for our props. Now for our props, we're going to actually add in some default values so that we can just use those. That's why I imported these images, because I just want to use those as default values, and we're going to have a default function for this callback. So let's go ahead and set up our defaults. We're going to have source 1 is pick1, source 2 will be pick2, and source 3 will be pick3. And for our callback, we're just going to console log it out, whatever the new source was. So we're going to say source, and then we'll do console.log source. All right, so now we have our props completely set up. We have default values, and we have everything that we're going to need to create our carousel. So inside of here, we're going to create some a set of state that's going to hold the order that our images are in. So whenever we move the carousel, it's going to change the order of the 3 images. So this piece of state will keep track of that. So we're going to create a piece of state called sources. All right, then we're going to have set sources, and then we're going to use state, and then we're going to just pass in the sources that we got from our props, and we'll pass them in order. So it'll be source 1, source 2, and source 3. So now we have our state set up, and we can go ahead and begin writing our markup. So inside of here, this outer div, I'm going to give a class name of carousel. And then inside of here, we're going to give another div, and this div will have the class name of container. Inside of this container div, we're going to have our left arrow first. So we're going to create a div here, and inside of here, we're going to have our FA angle left. And then the next thing we'll have is our sources, which is going to be our images. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to add some curly braces here. Then we're going to type in sources dot map, and then inside of here we're going to get the source and the index. And then inside of here, we're not going to put curly braces here. So once we get this, we can write in another div. And inside of this div, we're going to put our images. So we're going to have an image, and this image is going to have a source of our source, and we'll do an alt of just img. And then for this div, we need to pass in a key, because each element in this mapping needs to have a different key. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to just pass in the index. All right, so this will give all of our images with the source, with the correct source. And then we also need to add in an ID for these. So we're going to do ID. We're going to have pick, and then pass in the index. All right, so it'll be pick 1, pick 2, pick 0, whatever picture it is at that index. So once we do that, we're done with those, and now we can put our last piece of the markup, which is the right angle. So from here we have everything written out, and we can actually go ahead and take a quick look at what we have. So in order to run this development server, we need to type in npm start, and this will start up your development server and open your browser to the correct URL. All right, and as we can see, there's nothing there because I forgot to add our carousel to our app.js. So if you go to your app.js file and you add in the carousel object and make sure to import it. So import. When you're importing your icons, you have to put the FA library. So there we go. So make sure you add that /FA at the end here and let it compile. Also import useState and add these in parentheses. All right. A lot of mistakes there, but once you get those figured out, we should be good to go. And now we have 3 humongous pictures here. And we can see these tiny angle brackets. So this is our carousel. We're done. I'm joking, obviously. So let's get back to it and actually begin styling these things. So let's open our carousel.css file. We're first going to remove all of the extra padding and spacing that come with the basic elements. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to use a star, and then inside of here we're going to say margin, set that to 0, padding, set that to 0, and then we're going to do box sizing and set that to border box. So this is basically going to help us out with our styling. It basically just resets everything and gets us ready to go. The next thing we need to do is to style our container. So our container, the first thing we notice is that this is going up and down. We want our carousel to go from left to right. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to set the container. So we're going to say dot carousel dot container, and then we're going to set the display to flex. We're going to set the flex direction to row. All right, so now let's see what happens here. So now we can see that everything is going from left to right. So that's good to know. And we still have these tiny markers there. So if we head back in, we can go ahead and finish up setting up this container. So the other things we want to do is we want to align the items in this container to the center, and then we want to justify the content in this container to the center. All right, so the next thing we're going to want to get is those images. Those images are really large. Let's go ahead and bring them back down to size. So we're going to get the carousel, and then we're going to get all of the images in the carousel. Then we're going to change their size. We're going to say the width is going to be set to 300 pixels, and the height is going to be set to 169 pixels. So let's see if that helps us out. All right, so now we have much smaller images, which is good. And we still have these tiny icons here, which is fine for right now. So the next thing I want to do is actually make this center image larger than the other two, because we want the center image to stand out. And then we're also going to give these images and stuff a little more spacing. So first, let's go ahead and handle that center image. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to have dot carousel. Then we're going to have pick 2, because if you remember, we set the ID to pick whatever. And oh no, we need pick 1, my mistake. So we're going to get pick 1, and then we're going to set this size to be a little bit larger than what we have there. So we're going to say width. We'll set this one to 350 for the width, and for the height we're going to set it to 196. All right, so now this center image should be a little larger. So now the center image is larger than the other two. And let's add some spacing. This we're going to say dot carousel dot container, and then we'll just get all of the divs inside of the container, and we're going to add some padding. Not going to do anything for up and down, but for left and right we're going to add, let's just do 10 pixels. Let's try 10 pixels. Yeah, 10 pixels seems good. So now we have our center image bigger than the others, and we have everything looking pretty decent. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make these icons a little bit bigger. That's just too small for me. Let's go into here, and if we go to the F angle left, we can just type in size, and then we'll set it to, let's say 32. Let's try that out. We'll do the same for the F angle right. Let's save that and see what we get. All right, that looks a little better. I think I'll take that for right now. Now this is pretty much the way the carousel is going to look. Now we just have to actually make it work. So right now when we do clicking, nothing happens. So let's go ahead and add some functionality to these click buttons. And in order to do that, we need to create some functions. So under our state, we're going to add 2 functions. So we're going to add a function we're going to call shift left, and then we also need a function called shift right. So let's start off with the shift right, and this function is just basically going to take the images and shift them one to the right. So whatever's in the middle is going to go to the right, whatever's on the right is going to go to the left, and whatever's on the left is going to go to the middle. So let's go ahead and create this function. We're going to need a new array to hold the sources after they've moved. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to have, I guess, new order, and this is going to be our new array. You could also do this in place, but I'm just going to do it this way because it's a little simpler for me. If you feel like doing it in place, then be my guest. So we're going to end up setting our sources to new order. All right, so now we need to go ahead and actually populate this new order object, or array, I should say. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to start with our sources. Then we're going to for each, and then we're going to grab that source. We also need the index, so I'm going to parentheses with an index. Inside of this for each, we're going to basically set our new order. So the way we're going to do this is by getting, const new index. So this is going to be the new index after we do the shift. So the way we're going to do the shift is we're going to first increment the index. We're going to check to see if this incremented index is greater than the length of our sources. So if it's greater than sources.length, actually we need a greater than or equal to. So if it's greater than or equal to sources.length, then we're going to set it to 0. Otherwise, we'll just set it to index. So we're incrementing the index. We're checking if it's greater than sources.length. If it is, then that means we need to go back to the beginning, which is going to be 0. Otherwise, we'll just set it to whatever that incremented index is. All right, so now that we have that, we can go ahead and set the new order and then new index to source. All right, so that's going to effectively move it over 1. All right, so now that we have that, this should be done, because now we're populating the new index, then we return, then we set our sources to it. So this should work. Let's go ahead and do the shift left, which is going to be almost identical to this, minus the fact that, of course, this checking is going to be a little different. So let's go ahead, paste that in, and now we're going to need to subtract the index. Then we need to check if it's less than 0. And then if it is less than 0, then we need to go to sources.length -1. Otherwise, just put the index in. So this should work for shifting left for the same reason that shifting right worked. It's just a different check. All right, so both of these should work. And let's go down to our F angle left, and then we're going to say on click, and then we'll call shift left. All right, so we're going to do the same thing for our F angle right. We're going to say on click, and then we're going to set that equal to shift right. All right, so now that we have that, let's go back and check to see if this is working. And it does. The images are moving right. Let's try left. And they are moving left. All right, so now we have that. Now let's add a little bit of flair. So basically this is the carousel. This is how it works. You can add any other things that you want. I'm probably just gonna add just a tiny bit of flair to it, nothing too serious, but just to make it look a little prettier. Let's go ahead and go back to our carousel.css, and we will throw in some couple of transitions and box shadow just to make it look a little better. So let's go to our images. Where are we doing the images? And here we can just add in a box shadow, and we're going to set it to, let's say, 5 pixels, 5 pixels, and 10 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. And it looks a little better. See, got the shadow back here now on all of the images. Now let's go ahead and add some transitions. So for our regular images, let's just do some transitions. So let's do a hover transition. So dot carousel img hover. We'll do, let's do a width. So width will go up to like 320, and height will go 180. And then we'll do a transition property. We're going to say width and height. Then we'll go with a transition duration of 0.3 seconds. And then we'll do a transition timing function of ease in. All right. And let's do the same thing for when we come out of the hover. So we'll go there, and let's just say ease out, I guess. I don't know. All right. So now we have that. So these images should, there we go. Gets a little larger, gets a little larger. And nothing happens here. So let's try to do something different for that middle one. So it'll be right here. All right, so we're going to do dot carousel, and then we're going to pick one again. We're going to do a hover, and then we're going to set the width to 390 pixels and the height to 219 pixels. And then we'll also add those transitions in. So let's do there and here and switch it out. So now I should be able to, there we go. So now we got a little bit of extra flair. When you hover over, they enlarge a little bit. This is pretty much it. This is a simple carousel. One thing I did forget to show you guys is the callback. So let's go ahead and take a look at the callback really fast. Let's do that in here. So inside of these shift left and shift right, this is where we would need to call that callback. So regardless of which way you shift, we're going to need to make a call to this callback and then pass in the source. And we only want to do this if the index is equal to 1. So we only want to do this for the middle. So if the new index is equal to 1, which is going to be that middle image, then we're going to actually call the callback and make the source. So whenever we make a change, whatever that middle one is going to be passed into the callback. So now you know what the new middle is. So remember, our callback up here is just going to, where's it at? Here it goes. It's just going to log it. So let's go ahead and show that really fast. I'm going to inspect, go to this console, and now let's make a change, and we can see it logged out what our image source is. So it's saying static whatever because remember we imported it like that. So whatever you pass into that as a prop, that's what will be printed out here. All right, so that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching the video. Hopefully it inspired you to come up with something even better than this very basic and slightly ugly carousel that I've come up with here. But thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe to the channel and all that jazz, and I will see you guys in the next one.